Hey, welcome back for another episode of The Blame Game. I'm catching up with Maria today. We're going to talk around profitability across clients and accounts. How you going, Maria? It's been a while.
Has been a while. I'm excited to get back into doing these videos though. We certainly nutted out quite a few issues with the last round of videos. So looking forward to this next round.
Yeah, same. So it's an activity I've been doing quite a lot with partners that we're coaching and just in general talking with organizations around the profitability side of things. Obviously, there's different types of profitability that we can make across, your products, your resale. But particularly, I've been looking around the managed services and the professional services, and of particular interest is the managed services. A lot of organizations aren't running as profitable as they should be, unfortunately. And the more and more we dig into it, the more and more we usually find that it's a result of managed services and prices not being updated and things like that. What are you seeing out there in the market?
Very similar. I'm speaking to a lot of partners who aren't profitable in all sorts of areas, managed services in particular. And I guess on the topic of the blame game, whose fault is it? Whose fault is it if managed services aren't profitable?
Oh, I think that's a contentious point. And I don't want to go into the finger pointing that we're trying to work away from. Taking a step back, I think a better way to look at it is where is that unprofitability, actually resulting from? And part of that is actually, can you see the profitability across your clients as a starting point before you even start digging down into it?
Yeah, I see a lot of MSPs whose the visibility of their account they've not itemized enough within their
Yeah.
financials, and so they'll look at I was reviewing some financials the other day with somebody and looking at a client who had lost them 400% or something along those
Yeah.
lines. And they said, "Oh no, that included the onboarding." And I said, "Well, why is that bundled in with your managed service for the month? And why are you spending money on onboarding?" But that side of things, I think if you don't know whether each of your clients are profitable in each different area of your business, you need to drill down by client, not just by line of business.
When it comes to being able to drill down, and now we're starting to talk around, chart of accounts and, where the line items and things are going. What's your recommendation here? Because I see a lot of things bundled that I think it's just so hard to understand. Like your Microsoft 365 comes under your managed service agreement, and your antivirus and your backup all come under your managed service agreement. They're not coming up as they're going to the same contract that you're providing the support services under. They're going to the same line items, and it all just gets bundled into one. And now you've got these multiple different things that have multiple different types of margins across it, different types of agreement, different resale agreements, the like. And it all just ends up being this big bucket that everything goes into that you don't really understand. So what are you recommending there?
So from a selling perspective, we can absolutely bundle and say, here is your one SKU, your one line item. Here's the all you can eat, everything. You don't have to worry. There is a caveat around that. Microsoft just increased their licensing in our region. And there's little notice, and they're now doing that every 6 months. So, do you want to go back to your clients and say, I'm increasing my managed service agreement, or do you want to wear that 9%? So, have a think about that when you're putting your bundle together. But putting together a sales bundle and putting together and bundling within your chart of accounts it's two very different things. You should be able to break down every single thing. So you should have, you should know whether your licensing is profitable for each of your individual clients. You should know whether your service component is profitable for each of your individual clients. Because they're two very different things. They should have two very different profit levels.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you don't know those things, how can you make decisions for your business?
Yeah, And that's really a great point, and completely agree. You can offer it as a bundle, but in the back end, you have to be able to differentiate and understand where each of those costs and each of those profits is really lining up to, so that you are keeping visibility and accountability across different parts of your business, how your team's operating, how your product resale is going, where you can improve. Without any of that, it's a lot of conjecture, and really the only thing that you can do in that case often is go, hey, you need to pay us more money, but you can't tell them why. And if on top of that they don't like the service you're providing them because it's inefficient, but you've got no data or way of seeing that, that's again going to cause you some issues for contention there.
Yeah, and I mean, that visibility also should be around the teams that are delivering these services or selling these services. So your sales team should understand what they're selling, while what they're presenting to the customer is maybe a single line item or a single grouping. What the sales rep should be able to understand is what your profitability aim is from the service perspective, and what the profitability aim from the licensing perspective is, and anything else that you're bundling into the deal. So that when we're talking perhaps discounting or deals, then they understand what areas are going to be affected based on the discounting they're offering. And then I guess the service desk, they need to understand, don't they, what's involved.
Yeah, and if you're going to discount things, don't discount your service desk. Discount the products, because no one's really getting marked or measured on those ones as well. On the opposite end of the of that as well. So I've had similar experience to what you were talking about before, where you start looking and it's you're in the minus and you're in the minus hundreds across contract profitability. And a few things that have really stood out to me is that bundling of things, or engineers not having a commercial awareness, but also it's been made difficult for them to know what the right thing is and when it should be something where it's escalated to an account manager, or they're telling the client that this is out of the agreement and billable. So having clean agreements or cleaner agreements that really clarify what type of services we provide, what technology we support, what type of tickets we deal with, like are we incidents and requests primarily, and then everything else is billable. All those things really need to be clarified and trained through as well, so that people have an awareness that we are a revenue generating team, and that is part of our responsibility as well. And if we're not generating revenue, we're generating cost.
Definitely.
Particularly towards agreements. The other thing I often see is that what you're saying, projects or professional services work, like an onboarding, just getting chucked in for free and it's going to managed services. It's really professional services work. Maybe you do the professional services work for free, but across some of these projects, I generally advise against that as well, because you want to make money. But they're two separate things. You're introducing something new, you have a scope, you have an agreement of what you're doing. It's effectively a project you're introducing or changing the environment, bringing something new in, setting up a team for a temporary period of time, engaging with stakeholders, seeing it through. Put that to the right revenue stream rather than to your managed services as well, because you tend to chuck them all in together and then you end up with this minus 100, et cetera, et cetera. Does that mean that we've done really poorly on managed services? No, it just means we've given a project away for free. But we don't have that visibility of giving a project away for free.
But and ultimately, I say to MSPs that I'm talking to about this, when I'll say, run a report. Let's look at what's profitable. Let's look at which of your clients are profitable, which of your lines of business are profitable. And what I say to them is, I should be able to look at your books and not have to ask you any questions.
Yeah.
And if I look at this and go, oh my gosh, why are you losing 400% in managed services this month? I shouldn't have to ask that question. I should be able to see it as a line item, onboarding discounted by 100%.
Yeah.
But when we're talking discounting onboarding or discounting, various projects, we're not supermarkets. We don't have to run with a loss leader. Supermarkets sell milk at below cost so that they get people in the door to buy other things that make them money. We we're not supermarkets, we're not conglomerates.
Yeah.
That needs to be accounted for somehow. So if you are taking your service engineers or your project engineers and you are using them for onboarding and it's free, that's okay. That is a decision you need to make, not an accident that happens.
Yeah. And you also need to also then bear in mind that your service department's going to be less profitable, and that's as a result of something that hasn't been their decision to make as well. So how you address that? Are you changing targets? Are you changing the KPIs and what we should be focusing on in terms of profitability and billable metrics as a result? All things that need to be considered, because the problem, particularly as you start growing into organizations where you're starting to see a more split between your managed and professional services, it starts to completely skew profitability across your managed service and professional services. You can end up over hiring in one area, under hiring in another, or just completely dissolving teams as a result because you're not getting that data to help you.
Yeah, if you're recognizing, either compensating or recognizing staff of any sort around profitability, they need to have an element of insight into that. And you need to understand all of the numbers if you're going to recognize, if you're going to KPI or recognize staff against profitability, say the service desk staff against the profitability of services sold, then they need to have an element of ownership over that, and having, something bundled in for free that uses their time takes away from their profitability.
Exactly. Yeah.
Contentious issue, and that's where we end up with tension in the in the.
Yeah. And the other thing I'd add, you were talking about it before, is generally just don't give things away for free anyway. Like you're a business to make money. You're not a not-for-profit. You're not a charity that just really likes doing technology for businesses. You have to make money to exist. And a lot of where I see issues and complete loss of visibility across the profitability across the clients is the idea that it'll come out in the wash. Like, yeah, we'll do this for free. It'll make things stable for them. They'll be happy, and we'll see a return on an investment. But often you're not going to see that return on investment for 30 plus months in some cases, with how much those projects are getting given away versus what the margins are that you're making on your services anyway. Can you even guarantee that your client's going to sit around for the next 4 or 5 years to see that return on investment? It's just something you need to recuperate.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Another week we'll talk about retention of clients and measuring the retention levels.
Yeah. That would be a good one to cover off as well. Just to summarize or talk through the things that I notice or things that you can improve once you do understand or see that profitability, and then I'll get you to also put some ideas in there, Maria. If you're seeing your clients' profitability start to drop, the first thing that I start looking at or suggest you start looking at is number of incidents that are happening. Number of incidents shows that there's downtime, there's interruption, there's misconfigurations in the system, things like that. If you're not seeing a whole level of incidents, are you over servicing in terms of doing requests, doing projects for free and things like that? Generally, it's going to be incidents though. Something's broken, you've inherited something broken, you're not really resolving problems, you're not looking at root cause investigation, getting to the bottom of it. Those are some of the additional areas to look into. Look at trends across your tickets. What things are you seeing happening in specific clients? Are they happening over and over again? If they're happening over and over again, leverage things like your change management or your project management. Identify, scope out improvements. I used to do it a lot when I was an engineer. Look at trends ticketing. I can see that there's some trouble here. It's been caused by your DNS, or it's your group policies are old and not mapping right, and you're also using login scripts, and it's creating a whole bunch of problems with configurations in the system. Or just that your Active Directory, your infrastructure. I'm sounding old now because it's all on-prem stuff, but these are the things that I tend to look through. How their servers are configured, what could cause degraded performance, and then coming up with recommendations or suggestions to improve them, and using that to drive professional services work so that you're also delivering value and delivering improvements into the organization. They're more productive, they have less downtime, but you're also generating professional services revenue that in turn makes more money for you and makes the managed services component quieter in the future, because those incidents that were happening that you're spending time on that go to the agreement and you're not getting paid for, they stop happening now. Now most of your focus can be on value add activities as well.
Yes, absolutely. The first step is, more often than not, MSPs think, well, the first step is I just need to raise my prices. But if you haven't looked into and reviewed the underlying cause of, especially if it's a sudden jump, especially if it's a sudden,
Yeah.
you've been reasonably profitable, things have been going well, and then suddenly, the last couple of months have just been really unprofitable. Why have they been really unprofitable? What, let's look at what the patterns are, where things are coming from. Is it across all clients? Is it just across, one or two? Is there any synergy there from the products they have, or how you work with those clients?
Yeah. And sometimes it is a case of raising prices as well. Like if you've got a well-defined processes and people are working well, and you're working in a structured manner, relatively low volume of incidents coming through, you've automated as many requests as you can, that type of stuff, and they're relatively low touch and you're still not profitable on them, that definitely is an indicator. And we've talked about this before. Actually, do you have a strategy for that? Your old T&M clients, are you looking to move them to managed services? You don't really have to worry about them so much in terms of profitability because it's time for time, as long as they pay. But when it comes to your managed services, well, you should have a plan across your account management of moving your T&M to managed services, and your managed services towards better agreements, improving their infrastructure, improving the systems and tools that they use, as well as making sure that you're regularly reviewing and updating pricing to match the market and what you need to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, make sure that and I mentioned, Microsoft is just one of many vendors that the MSPs might be using. Make sure that you're still making money off the licenses you're selling. You're not losing money, because we don't wake up in the morning to go and give away all our money to our clients. We still also need to pay mortgages and pay the bills and all of those things. So, make sure that you're not losing money, actively losing money, which is what a lot of people are doing if they haven't reviewed what they're charging for licensing versus paying for licensing. And then, and then this comes down to knowing what you're selling, knowing whether every single thing that you're selling is profitable. And, and really, really keeping an eye on that. This is not you can run a report today. You don't leave it for another year and then run a report and go, oh dear, for the last 9 months I've been unprofitable. This should be a regular activity to constantly be reviewing and making sure that you're on top of that profitability across the various areas.
Yes. And in any pricing that you're doing, making sure that you're factoring in those margins that will help you to achieve that profitability that you need across each of those line items, which in another session we should maybe talk about what those should be as well. How much profit should you make across these different
what
things.
Your numbers should look like. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we should definitely discuss that one.
Yeah, cool. All right, takeaway for you, for people to do?
Really simple. Run a report. I call it the traffic light system. Run a report. Have a look at every single thing that you sell and who you sell it to. Quite easy. Don't just run is my entire business profitable? Is every single client that I'm servicing profitable? And if they're not, dig deeper, look into them, figure out why.
Yeah, okay, cool. From my perspective, make sure that your system's set up right so that your costs and your revenue align. So if you're selling licensing, what are you paying versus what are you getting paid for it? If you're selling services, same deal. Make sure those things are aligned, because it's going to help you in the future to really understand and make some of those decisions. And then, as I was mentioning, look at a good place to start if you've got unprofitable clients from a service point of view is just what's the volume of incidents, and see if you can identify any trends. Get some of your engineers involved, see if they have noticed or spotted any recurring trends or things that they think we could do better, and use those to generate initiatives to generate more professional services work so that you're getting paid for projects while reducing the load and volume on your managed service agreements that you will be spending across incidents. All right, cool. Good catching up, and we'll catch up again soon to talk about a whole bunch of other things.
Fantastic. Thanks, Nathan.
All right, thanks.